I never thought I'd be sharing this, but here goes. I'm Liam, 32, and I make furniture. Beautiful, custom-made stuff, but to my family, the Thorns, it's just wood. My older brother's a doctor, my sister's a lawyer, and my parents practically bleed blue blood in our fancy suburban bubble. I've always felt like the odd one out, the artisan amidst the aspiring aristocracy. There's this unspoken disapproval, this subtle judgment that hangs in the air at every family gathering. You know, the kind where they ask about your little hobby with a pitying smile. I always thought I was imagining it, being overly sensitive. But now I know it's real and I can't believe how low they'll go. Then it happened. I was scrolling through Instagram, killing time on a slow Tuesday afternoon when I saw it. A picture. My parents beaming, standing under a floral archway at the Oakwood Country Club. 30 years, the caption read, celebrating mom and dad's anniversary, so much love. My brother, my sister, their spouses, all there, laughing, celebrating, without me. My stomach dropped to my knees. I scrolled through the tagged photos, each one a fresh stab. A cold wave washed over me as I realized the party had been yesterday. Yesterday I was in my workshop, covered in sawdust, thinking they were just having a quiet night at home. My hands trembled so badly I had to set my phone down. This wasn't a simple oversight. I live 15 minutes away. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. "This isn't about you, Liam," my mother said when I finally managed to call, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We just thought you were so busy with your projects. After everything we've done for you, you're making a big deal out of nothing." Projects. Was that all my life was to them? My sister chimed in, "Honestly, Liam, you're always so dramatic. You need to think about what's best for the family." Best for the family, by excluding me. Was I really that different, that unworthy of even a courtesy invite? A slow, agonizing realization began to dawn. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. I just wasn't sure what I'd done to deserve it. I redialed Mom's number, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. "Mom, with all due respect, that's complete bullshit. I wasn't busy. I cleared my schedule. Why wasn't I invited?" Her voice hardened. "Liam, don't use that language with me. I said we thought you were busy. Besides, it was mostly family friends. You wouldn't have known anyone." Deflection. My face burned with humiliation and anger. "Family friends. Mom, I am family, your son. How could you do this to me?" A sigh heavy with exasperation. "Oh, here we go, always the victim. Your father and I worked so hard to give you everything." Guilt trip check. Dad's voice cut in, booming and condescending. "He's always been a bit of a loner, your mother, and I can't force him to come around." The words hit like a physical blow. My throat closed up, words trapped inside. "So that's it. I'm a loner, so you just erase me." My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Sarah, ever reasonable, attempted to mediate. "Liam, calm down. I'm sure it was just an oversight. You know how Mom gets." "An oversight?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "Sarah, it was a lavish party at the country club. It was all over social media. How is that an oversight?" "You're being too sensitive, Liam," she snapped, her tone sharp. "You always take things so seriously. Get over it, we're family." My head swam. Was I being too sensitive? Was I overreacting? Maybe they were right. Maybe I was just a difficult, brooding artist who didn't fit in. False equivalence. Everyone has problems. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to make them understand the hurt they had inflicted. But the words wouldn't come. I was drowning in their dismissals, their justifications, their casual cruelty. I felt a deep, bone-aching weariness settle over me. "Just forget it," I mumbled, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry I bothered you." I hung up the dial tone, a mocking buzz in my ear. I stared at my hands, calloused and stained with wood dye. They were the hands of a craftsman, a creator. But to my family they were just wrong, useless, unworthy. I felt utterly defeated, alone. But beneath the crushing weight of their judgment, a tiny spark flickered. Maybe, just maybe, their perception of me wasn't the truth. Maybe their love had always been conditional. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't deserve this. A week later, a group text popped up. "Sunday brunch at Mom and Dad's. Everyone be there, 11 am sharp. We have big news to share." My stomach clenched. A tension headache throbbed behind my eyes. Why was I still putting up with this? I scrolled back through our last text exchange, the dismissive words searing my memory. The floral archway, the forced smiles, we're family, the hypocrisy was suffocating. Can't make it, I typed, keeping it simple. Immediately Sarah replied, Liam, don't be ridiculous, you have to be there, it's important. Important for whom? I wondered, a bitter taste rising in my throat. A flashback hit me, a parade of forgotten birthdays, last-minute cancellations, and subtle jabs at my unconventional career. The pattern was undeniable. Mom chimed in, Liam, darling, we haven't seen you in ages. It's been too long. Your father will be so disappointed. Guilt. Always the guilt. I have a commission to finish, I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. Oh, that can wait, Sarah dismissed. Family comes first, Liam, or it used to. The used to hung in the air, a barbed hook meant to snag my conscience. Daniel, my grandfather's old friend, used to say, Liam, family is who shows up, not who shares your blood. The phone rang. Mom, I ignored it. 5 minutes later, another text. Liam, please pick up. We need to talk. This is about Grandpa. Grandpa. They were weaponizing his memory now. The manipulation was escalating, and I was starting to feel like a puppet on their strings. Suddenly, the phone rang again. Mom, sighing, I answered. Liam, sweetheart, she began, her voice sickly sweet. Your father and I are so worried about you. You've been so distant lately. Have I? I asked, my voice flat. Yes, and this brunch is very important. We want to announce something special, something we think you'll be very happy about. What is it? I asked, already dreading the answer. A pause. Well, we don't want to spoil the surprise. Just please, Liam, be there for Grandpa. The headache intensified. My stomach churned. I wanted to scream, to tell them to leave me alone, to let me live my life in peace. But the words caught in my throat. I don't know, Mom, I said finally, my voice trembling slightly. I'll see if I can make it. A small victory, a tiny crack in their carefully constructed facade. I hadn't committed. I hadn't given in. I hung up, my hands shaking. I looked around my workshop at the half-finished chair, the tools scattered on the workbench. This was my life, my passion, my sanctuary. I deserved to protect it. Liam slammed his chisel down, the sharp thunk echoing in the sudden silence of his workshop. He needed to talk. Badly. He grabbed his phone and scrolled to Sarah's number. After a few rings, she answered, her voice bright and breezy. Liam, what's up? Hey, Sarah, you busy? Nah, just finishing up some paperwork. What's going on? You sounded tense. Could I swing by the gallery later? Maybe grab a coffee? There's something I need to talk about. He hesitated, then added, it's family stuff. Sarah's tone softened. Of course, Liam. Come whenever you're ready. I'm here. 2 hours later, Liam found himself sitting across from Sarah at a small table in the back of her gallery, a lukewarm latte sweating in his hand. He stared at the swirling foam, avoiding her gaze. So, he began, then stopped, clearing his throat. It's probably nothing, really. I mean, every family has its quirks, right? Sarah raised an eyebrow, her expression patient. Liam, you called me sounding like you were about to explode. Don't downplay it. What's going on? He sighed, the fight draining out of him. Okay, it's just my family. They're driving me crazy. The Thorns, huh? What's new? Sarah said with a knowing smile. He finally met her eyes, a flicker of surprise in his own. You've noticed. Honey, everyone notices. They practically radiate disapproval at anyone who isn't a doctor or a lawyer. He managed a weak smile. Yeah, well, it's been worse lately, ever since the anniversary thing. He quickly recounted the story, the exclusion, the Instagram photos, his mother's dismissive words. Sarah listened intently, her brow furrowed. When he finished, she was silent for a moment. Liam, that's actually not normal family behavior, at all. That's intentionally hurtful, he flinched. I know, right, but they make me feel like I'm the one being unreasonable. He then told her about the constant stream of texts and calls he'd been getting since declining the Sunday brunch invitation, ending with the manipulation around his grandfather's memory. Sarah's eyes widened. They're using your grandfather to guilt trip you. That's wow. You realize that's manipulative, right? Like textbook manipulative. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I guess, I don't know. I'm so used to it, it's hard to see it clearly. Liam, Sarah said, leaning forward, her voice firm. If anyone else treated you that way, would you accept it? If a friend constantly dismissed your feelings, excluded you, and then tried to guilt you into doing what they wanted, would you still be friends with them? He stared at her, the question hanging in the air. The answer, of course, was a resounding no. No, he whispered. Exactly. You deserve to be treated with basic respect, Liam, and your family isn't giving you that. They haven't been giving you that for a long time. A wave of relief washed over him, followed by a surge of anger. But why? Why do they do this? Sarah shrugged. Maybe they're insecure. Maybe they're trying to control you. Maybe they just don't understand you. Whatever their reasons, it's not your fault, and you don't have to put up with it. He sat back, the reality of her words sinking in. He wasn't crazy. He wasn't overly sensitive. He was being mistreated, and he didn't have to accept it anymore. A new feeling began to bubble up inside him, not just anger, but resolve. I'm not going to brunch, he said, his voice stronger now. And I'm not going to let them manipulate me anymore. Sarah smiled, a genuine, supportive smile. Good for you, Liam. It's time to start putting yourself first. Suddenly, a memory flashed in his mind. His grandfather, a gruff but loving man, raising a glass at his high school graduation. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't be, Liam. You forge your own path. His grandfather had seen something in him, something his own parents seemed determined to ignore, and he'd been right. He had forged his own path, a path of creativity, passion, and authenticity, a path that until now he'd been trying to fit into his family's narrow definition of success. No more. He looked at Sarah, a new light in his eyes. Thank you, Sarah. I needed to hear that. Anytime, Liam. Now what are you going to do about it? Sarah asked, her eyes twinkling with mischief. A chill ran down Liam's spine. Later that week, he received an unexpected phone call from his mother. Liam, darling, she began, her voice dripping with honey. We have some wonderful news. We've been thinking, and with Christmas coming up, we want to have the family reunion at your place this year. His place. His house. The house he'd poured his heart and soul into building, the house they'd never bothered to visit. His breath hitched. He gripped the phone tighter, knuckles white. We've seen pictures, of course, she continued, oblivious to his internal turmoil. It looks absolutely stunning, and with that new studio of yours, it'll be perfect for the kids. We can even set up the tree in there, the studio. The one space in the world where he felt truly himself, the one space his parents considered an extension of his hobby. A wave of nausea washed over him. They wanted to invade his sanctuary, to plaster their fake smiles and judgmental eyes all over his life. Of course, we'll handle all the decorations and catering, she added. You just relax and enjoy the festivities. Relax. Enjoy. They wanted to turn his home into a stage for their charade, a backdrop for their perfect family portrait. All of his work, his passions, his space would be used to fuel their vanity. Mom, he began, his voice dangerously low, I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, nonsense, Liam, it'll be wonderful, everyone's so excited. Your father is already planning the seating arrangements. Seating arrangements, of course he was. Control, manipulation, always with the subtle power plays. No, Mom, Liam said, his voice firm, resolute. It's not happening. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Liam, don't be ridiculous. This is Christmas. What's gotten into you? He could feel his pulse pounding in his ears. The years of accumulated resentment, the sting of their dismissals, the ache of their rejection, it all coalesced into a single, burning point of clarity. What's gotten into me, Mom, is that I'm done, he said, his voice steady, unwavering. I'm done being your afterthought, your disappointment, your convenient backdrop. This is my life, my home, and I'm not going to let you turn it into a performance for your approval. Liam, you're being dramatic, she snapped. We're your family, we just want to spend Christmas with you. No, Mom, he said, his voice hardening. You want to use me. You want to use my home, my success, to make yourselves look good. You haven't cared about me for years. Don't pretend you do now. He could hear her sputtering on the other end of the line. How dare you speak to me like that? We've always supported you. Supported me? He scoffed. By excluding me, by dismissing my life's work, by making me feel like I'm not good enough. That's not true, she cried, her voice shrill. We love you, Liam. We just want you to be happy. Then let me be happy, he said, his voice trembling with rage. Let me be happy without your judgment, without your expectations, without your constant need to control everything. He stood up, his shoulders squared, his back straight. He was taller than them, stronger than them, more authentic than them. He finally understood that the problem wasn't him, it was them. Their insecurities, their prejudices, their desperate need for validation. The connection broke. He stared at his phone, his chest heaving. A strange sense of calm washed over him, replacing the years of anxiety and self-doubt. He felt lighter, freer, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He was done. Done with the guilt trips, the manipulations, the constant need to prove himself. He would no longer seek their approval, no longer crave their acceptance. He was worthy, valuable, and deserving of love and respect. And if they couldn't give him that, then they didn't deserve to be in his life. He took a deep breath, a sense of resolve solidifying within him. He knew what he had to do. He picked up his phone, his hand steady, his purpose clear. "Sarah," he said, his voice ringing with newfound determination, "I need your help. It's time to set some boundaries." Liam spent the next few days meticulously preparing. Gathering evidence felt clinical but necessary. Screenshots of group chats where he was subtly excluded, emails with dismissive replies, and a calendar filled with family events he hadn't been invited to. He wanted to be armed, not aggressive. Facts, not feelings. He even wrote down dates and documented every event. He researched narcissistic family dynamics online, finding article after article that mirrored his own experiences. Validating yet terrifying. It wasn't him. Consulting Daniel felt right. Daniel was more than just a friend of his grandfather. He was a rock. He was a man of quiet strength and unwavering integrity. They met at Daniel's favorite diner, the smell of coffee and bacon filling the air. "They want to use my home as their Christmas stage, Daniel," Liam said, frustration lacing his voice. Daniel listened patiently, his eyes filled with understanding. "They seek validation through you, Liam. Your success is a reflection of their parenting in their eyes. It is not genuine love." Daniel paused and took a sip of his coffee. "It's time to show them, Liam, but do it with grace. Do it with strength. Do it for you." He secured the deed to his house, his bank statements, all his important documents. He double-checked his insurance policies. It felt paranoid, but he needed to protect what was his home, his sanctuary, the physical manifestation of his hard work and talent. His plan was simple: a beautiful meal, a warm atmosphere, then a clear, concise statement. No yelling, no accusations, just the truth. He practiced what he would say in front of the mirror, his voice calm and steady. "You haven't been here for me, now I don't want you here." He anticipated their reactions, the guilt trips, the accusations, the tears. He prepared responses, short and to the point. "I'm not responsible for your feelings. I'm responsible for my own." He was ready to counter their manipulations with a wall of calm defiance. He chose his clothes carefully, a simple, well-tailored sweater and dark jeans, comfortable but presentable. He meditated each morning, focusing on his breath, grounding himself in the present. He visualized the confrontation, seeing himself standing tall, speaking his truth, and walking away with his head held high. Sarah offered practical assistance. "Do you want me to be there, Liam? Just in the background for support?" He considered it, then shook his head. "No, but thank you, I need to do this on my own. But maybe you and Daniel could be on standby, just in case things get ugly." "Absolutely," Sarah said, her eyes filled with concern. "We'll be right here if you need us. And Liam," she added, her voice softening, "don't expect them to understand. Don't expect them to apologize. Just focus on saying what you need to say and then let it go. Their reaction is not your responsibility." His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "We're so looking forward to Christmas, darling. The whole family is counting on you." He stared at the message, a wave of anger washing over him. He deleted the text, a small act of defiance. Anxiety gnawed at him. What if they don't listen? What if they twist my words? What if I break down and say something I regret? He took a deep breath. This isn't about them, it's about me. It's about setting boundaries, about reclaiming my life. He had to show them the life he built, the life they rejected. A life filled with art, passion, and genuine connection, not the hollow pursuit of social standing. He hoped to be understood. He needed to be heard. He looked around his house, the walls glowing with warm light, the scent of pine and cinnamon filling the air. He had set a beautiful table with his best china and silverware. He had prepared a delicious meal, a feast of traditional Christmas dishes. He made his famous bread pudding with whiskey sauce. Everything was perfect. The stage was set. They're going to be angry. Mom will cry. Dad will threaten. Sarah will try to mediate. My heart began to pound, but I must be strong. He drove down the long driveway, the headlights cutting through the darkness. He parked in front of his house, his hands gripping the steering wheel. He stared at the front door, the warm light spilling out onto the porch. He could turn back now. He could pretend it never happened. He could go back to being the dutiful son, the compliant sibling, the one who always sacrificed his own needs for the sake of the family. No, he couldn't. He took a deep breath, his chest heaving. He opened the car door, his legs trembling slightly. He walked towards the house, his steps slow but deliberate. He reached the front door, his hand hovering over the doorbell. He closed his eyes and saw his grandfather smiling, nodding encouragingly. "Forge your own path, Liam." He rang the doorbell. There was no turning back now. Christmas Eve at Liam's. The air crackled with forced cheer as the Thorns piled into his custom-built home. Mom, Dad, Sarah, her husband Mark, and his brother David with his wife, Emily. The initial atmosphere was thick with a suffocating blend of expectation and veiled judgment. Smiles were plastered on faces, but eyes darted around, assessing the decor, the furniture, him. Liam greeted them at the door, a polite smile masking the steel in his gaze. "Welcome," he said, his voice calm. "Please come in." The family trooped inside, their voices echoing in the high-ceilinged living room. Compliments were offered, superficial and laced with underlying surprise. "Liam, darling, you've really outdone yourself," Mom gushed, her eyes scanning the expensive artwork. Dinner went smoothly. Small talk, polite inquiries about work and health. The elephant in the room remained unacknowledged. After dessert, Liam stood. The clinking of silverware ceased. All eyes were on him, the smiles faltered. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice clear and steady. "But there's something I need to say." A nervous cough from Sarah. Dad shifted in his seat, his brow furrowed. "I appreciate you wanting to spend Christmas here," Liam continued, "but I can't allow it." Silence. A stunned silence that hung heavy in the air. Mom's face paled. "Liam, what are you talking about?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm saying that you're not welcome to stay," he replied, his gaze unwavering. "Don't be ridiculous, Liam," Sarah interjected, her voice sharp. "This is Christmas Eve, we're family." "Family," Liam repeated, a hint of steel entering his voice. "You cut me out of your lives for years, you made me feel like I wasn't good enough. You celebrated milestones without me, dismissed my passions, and judged my choices." "That's not true," Mom cried, tears welling in her eyes. "We've always loved you, Liam." "Love," Liam scoffed. "Love doesn't exclude. Love doesn't dismiss. Love doesn't make you feel worthless." Dad stood, his face red with anger. "How dare you speak to your mother like that? We've given you everything." "Everything but acceptance," Liam countered, his voice rising slightly. "Everything but genuine affection. Everything but basic respect. You think you can just waltz in here after years of neglect and pretend everything's fine? That this is all some big misunderstanding. You're being unreasonable, Liam," Sarah said, her voice laced with exasperation. "You're always so dramatic." "No, Sarah," Liam said, his voice firm. "I'm being honest, and I'm done." "Done?" Mom asked, her voice trembling. "Done with what?" Liam looked at each of them, his gaze unwavering. "This ends now. I'm not asking, I'm telling you." "Liam, you can't be serious," Dad said, his voice laced with disbelief. "We're your family, and for years you made me feel like I wasn't yours," Liam replied, his voice quiet but firm. "This isn't for people who show up when it's convenient, it's for those who have always been here." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Mom's tears streamed down her face. Sarah's jaw dropped. Dad's face was a mask of disbelief and fury. "You'll regret this, Liam," Dad said, his voice cold and menacing. Liam met his father's gaze, unflinching. "No, Dad, I won't. I'll regret letting this continue for another day." He walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Please leave," he said, his voice calm but firm. The family stared at him, their faces a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief. No one moved. "I'm not going to ask again," Liam said, his voice hardening. Slowly, reluctantly, they began to rise. Mom sobbed, Dad glared, Sarah shook her head in disbelief. As they filed out the door, Liam stood tall, his shoulders squared, his gaze unwavering. Before his mother walked out the door, she turned. "How could you do this to your own mother?" she said while wiping tears from her eyes. "After all we've done for you." Liam didn't flinch. "Those tactics don't work on me anymore." The door closed. Liam was alone. He stood for a moment, his chest heaving, his heart pounding. Then slowly a smile spread across his face, a genuine smile, a smile of freedom. He turned and walked back into his home, his sanctuary, his life. He was done sacrificing his well-being for their comfort, and he knew he'd finally begun to live. The silence after they left was deafening. Liam stood in the doorway, staring out at the empty street, the cold seeping into his bones. He closed the door slowly, the click echoing through the house. His hands trembled and a wave of exhaustion washed over him. He sank onto the nearest chair, his body suddenly heavy. He felt numb, disconnected, as if he were watching himself from a distance. His phone buzzed incessantly, a relentless barrage of calls and texts. He ignored them all, turning the device off and tossing it onto the coffee table. He didn't want to talk, to explain, to defend himself. He just wanted to be alone. He got up and walked into the kitchen, his movements sluggish. He poured himself a glass of water, his hand shaking so badly that some of it spilled. He took a long drink, the cool liquid soothing his parched throat. He looked around the kitchen, at the clean countertops, the gleaming appliances, the carefully chosen decorations. He had created this space, this sanctuary, and he had defended it. He walked into his studio, the scent of wood shavings and varnish filling his nostrils. He ran his hand over a half-finished chair, the smooth wood grounding him in the present. This was his passion, his purpose, his life. And he wouldn't let anyone take it away from him. He sat down at his workbench, picked up a chisel, and began to work. The rhythmic tapping of the chisel against the wood was a soothing balm, a familiar comfort. He lost himself in the work, his mind emptying of thoughts, his body moving on autopilot. Hours passed. The sky outside grew dark. The only light in the studio came from the small lamp on his workbench. He didn't stop until his hands were sore and his eyes were burning. Finally, he put down the chisel, his body aching with fatigue. He looked at the chair, the wood now shaped and refined, closer to its final form. He had created something beautiful, something lasting, and he had done it on his own. He stood up, stretched his aching muscles, and walked over to the window. He looked out at the night sky, the stars twinkling in the darkness. He felt a sense of peace settle over him, a quiet certainty that he had done the right thing. He turned off the light, walked out of the studio, and went to bed. He fell asleep almost immediately, his mind finally at rest. 6 weeks have passed since that day. The immediate fallout was a whirlwind of frantic calls, angry voicemails, and manipulative texts. Sarah flooded social media with cryptic posts about family betrayal and unconditional love, garnering sympathy from their mutual acquaintances. David sent a lengthy email, accusing Liam of being selfish and ruining Christmas. His father left a chilling voicemail, threatening to cut him out of the will. His mother sent tearful texts, begging him to forgive them, to reconsider. Liam ignored it all. He muted their numbers, blocked them on social media, and focused on his work. Sarah and Daniel were unwavering in their support, checking in on him regularly, reminding him of his worth. Slowly, the storm began to subside. The frantic calls became less frequent, the angry voicemails less vitriolic. The manipulative texts turned into passive-aggressive jabs, then faded away altogether. But the silence was not a sign of reconciliation. It was a sign of acceptance. They had finally realized that Liam was not going to back down, that he was not going to play their game anymore. In the aftermath, Liam found a newfound confidence and peace. The constant anxiety that had plagued him for years began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm and self-assurance. He realized that he had been living his life for others, trying to meet their expectations, seeking their approval. Now he was free to live his life for himself. He strengthened his relationships with Sarah and Daniel, finding solace and support in their genuine friendship. He started attending local art events, connecting with other artists, and building a community of like-minded individuals. He also started therapy, a decision that proved to be incredibly helpful. His therapist helped him to unpack years of accumulated trauma, to understand his family's dynamics, and to develop healthy coping mechanisms. The journey wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments of sadness, moments when he questioned his decision. But he always came back to the same conclusion. He deserved to be treated with respect, and he deserved to be happy. Some family members refused to change. His father remained cold and distant, his mother continued to play the victim, and Sarah remained passive-aggressive. But others made small efforts to improve. David sent a brief text apologizing for his email. Emily, David's wife, reached out to Liam expressing her sympathy. His Aunt Carol, his mother's sister, called him one day, saying, "Your grandfather would be proud of you, Liam. You're the only one in that family with any backbone." She was always his champion. One day, Liam received a letter in the mail. It was from his mother. Inside was a handwritten note, apologizing for her behavior and acknowledging the pain she had caused. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. He framed the letter and hung it in his studio, a reminder of the progress he had made. Liam learned that family is not always who shares your blood. It's who shows up for you, who supports you, who loves you unconditionally. He learned that setting boundaries is not selfish, it's necessary for self-preservation. He learned that he is worthy of love and respect, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Today, Liam is thriving. His business is booming, his art is gaining recognition, and he is surrounded by people who love and support him. He still has occasional doubts, still struggles with difficult emotions, but he is no longer defined by his family's judgment. He is defined by his own strength, his own resilience, his own authenticity. He is free. So here's my question, Reddit. Has anyone else experienced something similar? How did you navigate the aftermath? And how do you deal with the guilt that sometimes creeps in, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, you were too harsh?